So I decided, hey, I'm not going to go back to school because I found out that I didn't need a degree to be a technician. And the people at the time coming out of college were making $45,000 max.
I think before you make that transition, though, I wouldn't mind sticking with the resistance and what goes through your mind that actually even makes you feel like I got to leave corporate. Many people do work, they spend their whole lives working up the ladder because that's what we're taught.
Yes. What I want you to understand is that action is the key to all of those things.
All right, guys, welcome back. Welcome to the new year, 2024.
It's exciting times, bro. Brand new year. Congratulations. I think we've officially hit a year.
Finally a year.
They see a year ago we were in that cubicle in the back. Now we transitioned to the master
levels,
the
bro.
master suite.
There's levels to it. There's levels to it, man. Man, guys, I'm so excited to start this new year, 2024. 2023 was a great year. Obviously, Educate and Elevate came out. Armando and I really kind of just one day we were just like, man, he had a vision of starting a podcast. I had a vision of starting a podcast. Mm-hmm. I had one before, but doing it with somebody that you align with as far as like the actual vision of what we're trying to do, which is really to educate and elevate our circle, right? Yeah. Armando, talk to us a little bit about remind the people, maybe first-time viewers, a little bit about the vision of Educate and Elevate.
It really came down to, obviously, we see a lack of education. There's a big gap between Latinos and just in general of financial knowledge around our community in terms of not just Latinos, but first generations. A lot of people, even young-minded people like ourselves, people always look up to us like, yo, you two brothers. You two are like young. You guys look alike and you guys are speaking the same language. And in reality, it's so appealing because you don't see it too often. Yeah. And I think that's what we're trying to build a community on Educate and Elevate. And like Pablo said it so eloquently, like we want to educate the people to be able to elevate them, and in return, like that, naturally we ourselves are being able to elevate ourselves, bro. I mean, how was your growth this year just by naturally having the guests on our podcast, like learning from them, meeting new people?
Yeah.
How has it served you? Has it helped you and connected you?
Yeah, absolutely. I think one of the biggest things that I really learned in 2023 was how to really nurture the relationships and the guests that we've had on, right? I mean, I think one of the best guests, not to single any one guest out because they're all my favorites, but just the relationship we were even able to build with the chef, right?
Oh, right.
Him launching, meeting him before he even launches his vision and dream of having the restaurant at Gozo.
Yeah.
And to him rolling it out and now us both now having events there from time to time. I mean, I think it's just really cool with just the community. We've even had VIP parties at his restaurant, right? So like
really
so many things.
Yeah, became a part of that one.
Yeah. So and as we continue going forward with Educate and Elevate, what I want you guys to understand is that like we're constantly going to be evolving as well. Not only is it Educate and Elevate, but it's also evolving as we grow. And one of the things that we really want to do this year with you guys is you guys are going to start seeing that every month we want to have kind of like a theme, right? We want to talk about specific, have different guests on that talk about maybe the same thing, but from a different lens. For example, like this month, in the month of January, because it's a fresh start, we want to do really more of business planning, like what goal setting, right? What's going to help you thrive in business or your personal life or your personal habits and stuff like that. Going into the month of February, right? Armando's probably favorite month, right? The month of love.
For sure.
The month of love. If you guys don't know Armando, you guys know he's a lover.
Certified lover boy.
Certified lover boy.
Still not the best Drake album, but going with that, power couples in February is going to be a topic that is going to be piggyback off of January's business planning. So power couples in February is going to be special because it's going to be people that we look up to. Pablo knows a few guests, a few of his mentors and my mentors that are killing it in business, and they're together. Many times I think that's something we got to highlight, especially in our culture where the divorce rate is like 52%.
Crazy.
So that's something we got to bring more light to. And then March, what's March problem?
March, we're doing real estate investments. So obviously we're anticipating a lot of changes with potential interest rates and stuff like that. And who doesn't want to know about investing into real estate? I think one of the cool episodes that we had last year too was Limon, right? Yeah. With mastering the Airbnb game. If you guys haven't seen that episode, you got to go back and check that one out because he dropped a bunch of nuggets on that. And even building the relationship with him, right? But also having knowledge on like Charlie. Where to start or how to start investing into real estate. right? We'll have several different guests on in the month of March as well. So,
and that's just the sprinkling in the first 3 months. I think that's a strong way, and that's what you could expect in January, February, March. And then obviously that leads us now to, obviously now we're in January. Now it's business planning, and now we have our beloved guest here, which we're thankful for his time, Andrew. So Andrew, would you mind kind of breaking down a little bit about yourself, bro, and then a little bit about what could we expect today on today's episode?
Yeah. So first of all, I want to thank you guys, and also I want to congratulate you both. What you've heard so far is 3 key things: is planning, vision, and dreams. And I want to encourage anybody who's listening right now just to kind of think about, how many times have you thought about wanting to do something that you just didn't do? You didn't pull the trigger. And here you guys are a year later, after an idea, right? An idea that you decided, hey, let's take some action on it, right? So the first thing that like you said, tell me a little bit about myself, is like, I'm a big accountability guy. And one of the things that I specialize in is helping people do the thing that they want to do, even though they don't want to do it, right? So like January, we talk about health, right? Forget about business for now. Let's talk about health. How many people are going to go, how many people are going to make their New Year's resolution to go to the gym, and then a week later, the thing that they want to do is done. It's already done. So what I want to encourage you to do as you think about whatever we're going to discuss today and the future podcasts that are coming up, for the guests that are watching us today, are, if you have a dream, if you have a vision, if you have goals, all it really takes is action, right? And a little bit of accountability. And that's what's beautiful about you two guys, is that's why it works. That's why I say, you guys are brothers. Are you guys brothers? Are you guys like the brotherhood and all that? Because you guys have a circle of influence that kind of pushes you guys to do the things that you want. So let's as we're going to talk today a little bit about business planning and visions, what I want you to understand is that action is the key to all of those things. Okay? So a little bit about myself. I spent 22 years in corporate America, working for, at the time, the largest communications and entertainment industry in the United States, maybe not if in the world. I started out at the lowest job possible, and then I worked my way up over the course of 22 years, and ended up in boardroom meetings with senior officers making business decisions, business planning decisions. So my 22-year career kind of experienced everything. From being on non-management to management, and then even beyond management into like kind of like the upper echelons of decision making, which is where my career kind of ended. And then, I mean, I know you have questions about that. I won't get too much into it, so I'll allow you to kind of dictate how we roll with this.
What I really want to get into is that, like, I know your story, right? But the luxury of having a platform like this is that others don't know your story, and they get to learn about you, and maybe there could be some type of like, hey, I kind of have the same story as Andrew, right? Going from that 9-to-5 type of structure, corporate America, to now being a thriving business consultant, business coach, amazing father, husband. I mean, you really, I don't want to hype you up too much, right? But like the full package, man. Like if someone's really looking for a really well-rounded mentor, like I would say I would probably vet, like you are one of those guys that I've even been able to recently build a great relationship with you. You're giving amazing advice to me and really kind of guiding me as well. But talk to us a little bit about like, what was your kind of like, where were you at 16, 17, 18 years old? Was it like, I'm just going to go to college? Am I just going to start working a 9-to-5? What was that?
Yeah. So first of all, thank you for the kind comments. I certainly appreciate it. Yeah, that was beautiful edification. I love it. It's,
as it should be.
My head's getting a little bigger here, but so I come from a traditional background, right? Where growing up, my parents had always urged me to go to school, and then high school, and then college, and then get a college, and then go into some type of a safe career. Mm-hmm. But looking back, there's this one story that kind of defines how I ended up kind of becoming into an entrepreneur. So one day I'm at my grandma's house, right? I'm in my grandma's house. I'm maybe like, I don't know, 5 or 6 years old. And my dad, he's playing cards or something with my uncles at the table. And the ice cream man comes by. And you hear, the little music from the ice cream, whatever it was, right? Yeah. And I'm like, hey, Dad, can I have $1? So he's like, Yeah, sure. So he goes and he gives me $1. And then no sooner does he give me the $1, I'm like, hey, Pop, can I have 2? Right? And so I always wanted more, right? And because I could see that with more, I could do more. And I didn't take the money and buy ice cream. I took it and invested in little quarter candies that I ended up selling at school, right? Because I had a vision of how could I turn this 1 into 2 and 2 into 4. And what I didn't know then was that was kind of like the little entrepreneur in me. And so my father and I, we discussed this now, right? He's in his 70s. I'm almost 50. And he says, you know, son, had I known a little bit better about your personality and your drives and your desires, I might have steered you a different route. So that kind of takes us right back to where you started. Okay, where was I 18 years old?
It's a great topic of conversation with you and your dad.
Oh, yeah.
The fact that you guys are able to like kind of conversate now
in
terms of like look back, like, dude, like, you know.
It took years of like headbutting
right.
because he wanted me to go a certain route. And I love my dad. My dad and I have a wonderful relationship. But like you read the Bible, right? And then the iron sharpening iron. Right, iron sharp. My dad and I have sharpened each other like sharper than anything you could ever imagine, which a lot of times looks like fights. But beyond that, so going back, 17, 18 years old, I'm in high school and I had to make a decision. I chose a college. And then about 2 years into college, I ended up working a summer job at AT&T, and I worked in the office of the VP. And at the time, there was a lot of rain, and there was a lot of work going on. And so, as being part of the office of the VP, I had privilege to see certain things that other employees weren't part of. So I started seeing all these like checks that were being sent out, or like the amount of people were being paid. And this is back in 1994, I believe it was. And I'm like, who's making $150,000? Like, how do I get that job? They're like, oh, those are our technicians. I'm like, technicians? Like, well, how much are the managers making, right? And they're like, so here I am watching these technicians. I'm like, well, what does it take to be a technician? They're like, well, you put on some boots and a belt, and you grow a beard and a belly, and you drink some beer, and I'm like, I could do that. I was in college. That's what I was learning in college, right? So I decided, hey, I'm not going to go back to school because I found out that I didn't need a degree to be a technician, and the people at the time coming out of college were making $45,000 max, right? Most people were making $25,000 to $30,000. It's like, if I can make that money, why go to school? So that's what I did. So that's where I was at that age, and I was really chasing. Okay, how do I make more money, right? And then that turned into the long time career. I ended up going back to college later, but not before I started working. And so when you were asking about, there might be somebody in construction or people who work odds and end jobs. Like I literally worked as a grunt in the corporate world before I became a manager or doing anything special like that. So 17, 18, I was in college. I decided I want to go work, and now I become a technician. That's the beginning of my corporate career.
Now, obviously there was a transition there.
Yeah.
You were there 15, 20. How long were you in that corporate America world?
22 years.
22 years. And for somebody that may be listening right now, and they're like, you know what? I've been in corporate America. I've been working for my employer. And I feel like there's an end coming. There's a transition in my life that's calling my name.
I think before you make that transition, though, if we wouldn't mind sticking with the resistance and what goes through your mind that actually even makes you feel like I got to leave corporate. Because many people do work; they spend their whole lives working up the ladder because that's what we're taught.
Yes,
benefits, 401ks, safety, stability, holiday pay. You get a month off of the year, you're happy. Many people work their way up and become successful. They make around 150, 200 grand a year. But I think talking to other people that do start their own business like yourself, walk us through, because other people might be like, dude, I know what you're feeling. What were you feeling mentally, and what was like urging you like, dude, I could do more, or I'm being limited, or I don't feel like saying, yes and no to a boss, and when I could go to the restroom.
Yeah. So let's take it back even a step further. So the 401k, the pay, the safety net, that's all what holds people. But you want to know what really holds people back, and then I'll come back around to your answer. Is the paradigm that they're taught at home, right? So for me, leaving corporate America was more of me going against the grain of what I had been taught my whole life by my parents, by my teachers, by society, if you will, by the people.
Right.
So I had to overcome that mental challenge first to be like, how am I going to work up the nerve to explain to my wife, which she knew all along what my plans were, but my family and all these people who, like, even the people that I worked with, that I need to go another route. So that was like mental, emotional challenge number one. Okay. Despite the desires of, you know, how do you go through that transition of, I'm in corporate and then I want to be an entrepreneur.
Because I'm sure you were feeling distressed by not following your dreams, right?
Absolutely.
I mean, I just know, like, when I just feel like I've been in those shoes too, and I am in the shoes oftentimes, where if you feel like you're doing something that you're not supposed to do, like you said, like you have that, you know what you tell your wife, hey babe, we're gonna do this, babe, but you're not doing it. At the end of the day, she's looking at you like, either, okay, what's gonna happen, Andrew? And I know what you're talking about. It's
conviction.
It's like, damn,
it's
like
conviction.
what am I? Is it time?
So here's I'm gonna wrap this up so that if you have a hard decision to make right now, like if you have this gut feeling that you should be doing something else, you need to follow the intuition. And here's how I made the decision. And I speak to kids in schools, and I tell them I'm a time traveler, right? And I'll spare you the story for another segment on why I call myself a time. And it wasn't actually me who called me a time traveler. It was one of the principals who did. And it's essentially this. If you could go back in the past, what would you do? And I've asked thousands of people this question. If either one of you can go back 5 years, 10 years, whatever, what would you do? And so I'll ask that rhetorically so I can just give you the answer.
Okay.
Get back into the industry earlier.
Well, you would change something.
Yeah.
Simply answered, you would change something, right? So the people that are watching today, if you go back in time, what would you do? Most people, it's I would change something, right? So I have been to the future, right? And this is what I tell the kids. Like a lot of times I speak to 8-year-olds, 10-year-olds, high school kids. And then now I'm speaking, you guys are probably 25 years younger than me, right? So I've been to the future. So here's what I learned. From the time you're born until your 20s and up to you're about 30, you try to answer a question that is imposed upon you by your teachers, by your parents and society. Is that, what do you want to be when you grow up? That's the first question. So we're guided by a question. And then you start approaching 30, right? And some people call it the Saturn return and all these other, but something happens around 30. And you guys are probably close. You're probably experiencing that. And the voice, so there's always a voice. And when you're born with the voice. But then your parents and your society, they quiet the voice, and their voice becomes louder than the voice. But you can't quiet this voice. And some say it's intuition. Some say it's God. Some say it's purpose. Whatever you believe, that's fine. Around 30, it starts getting louder, right? The voice starts getting louder, and you can't ignore it. And then you have to answer the question, what do I want to be when you grow up? But when you look back, okay, when you hit 30, you go, I've been answering the wrong question, right? So then people go from, what do I want to be when I grow up, to who do I want to be when I grow up? Have you guys experienced that yet?
Yeah.
Okay. So you go through these phases, right? And the first phase is kind of like almost answering to all the people that you're supposed to please in life. Yes?
Right.
And you think that by pleasing them, that pleases you. So you're happy. So you go and you become a technician and you get your degree and you work and blah, whatever, right? But then right around 30, right? And I know you have a millennial crowd here, so this is perfect for probably the majority of you who are listening.
You're speaking right to us right now.
Yeah. So then when you hit 30, you go, who do I want to be when I grow up? And you start to ask a different question. But then you go through your 30s and you're answering that question. That's when that voice starts to get louder. And then you approach your 40s. And it's like the clock, that's also the intuition, starts to tick louder. Because what happens as you start getting to 40 and 50? You start to recognize that you're immortal, right? That you're going to die, right? Or not immortal, but you're not immortal, excuse me. That you're going to die. Right. So you start to ask yet another question. Instead of asking, what do I want to be when I grow up? And who do I want to be when I grow up? You have to try to now figure out, and this is something that happens. I'm sure most of you are understanding what I'm saying. You say, who am I? Okay, so for me, the decision to leave the corporate world to do what I'm doing now was because I needed to answer the question, who am I? So a lot of times I get asked, what is it that you do? Who are you? And in the corporate world, I chased titles for years, right? I want to be a VP and I want to be this and I want to be that. And what I ended up finding out was that none of those titles encapsulated who I was. And not only that, when I got to the level of the ladder that I was at in boardrooms, I wasn't at the top of the ladder, but I was pretty darn near the top of the ladder when I got there. I recognized that the ladder was up against the wrong wall. And the right wall was the path that I was supposed to be taking to answer the question, who am I? And so that's how the decision went from hard, pleasing mom and dad, leaving the security and the safety, to knowing absolutely without a doubt that I need to move on beyond this because it's holding back who I am from doing the thing, from fulfilling my purpose, to doing whatever it is that I need to be doing.
Pretty strong.
That's a great way.
That's a great way to
start off your years, by asking yourself, get ahead of the curve, right? Be that time traveler. Who are you? And are you chasing what you truly, are you listening to the little voice inside of you, or are you trying to please others? Let us know down in the comments below. And if you want to learn more about how Andrew has gone from that 9-to-5 corporate America to now becoming this great business coach and consultant, watch the following episodes that are going to be dropping here on Educate and Elevate very, very soon.
Let's go.
All right.
Let's go.
Yeah.